you, Jackson. First, I'm not sick. I've got laryngitis, so feel absolutely fine. But my voice, which would normally cause you to swoon, will not do that today. Welcome to the Eureka Center for Spiritual Living. We always start out by honoring the land on which we are located. The Eureka Center for Spiritual Living acknowledges that the land on which we gather is the ancestral territory of the Wiyot peoples. This territory extends to the communities through most of the Humboldt County, and we honor the Wiyot peoples today. And we'll start out by doing our affirmation, and on the bottom half, let's just turn to somebody, whether or not it's the person's a man, a woman, non-binary, just wish a happy Father's Day, because we've all had fathers. I assume everybody has had a father, so we'll do the top half together, and we will, then the bottom half, wish whoever is near you a happy Father's Day. We are a welcoming community where the vibration of love lifts us, the wisdom of the ages inspires us, and the science of mind teaching empowers us. Happy Father's Day. So here's the thing about laryngitis. I get it regularly. I think it's because I do a lot of speaking. And years ago when I was a disc jockey, I had to go into the doctor because I couldn't do my shift. And the doctor, whose name, God's honest truth, was Dr. Helper. He and his wife ran the Helper Medical Clinic in Bakersfield. If that wasn't a name that was designed for a doctor, I don't know what was. So he listens to me, checks me out. He goes, I got good news, I got bad news. I go, okay, what is it? He goes, the good news is you just got a garden case of laryngitis. It's going to run its course. You'll be fine in a day or so. I said, what's the bad news? He goes, I'm going to charge you for this, and I'm not going to do a damn thing for you. So, all right. Speaking of Father's Day, I did not know this, so just a little bit of its history. Credit for originating the holiday is generally given to Sonora Smart Dodd of Spokane, Washington, whose father was a Civil War veteran, and he raised her and her 5 siblings after their mother died in childbirth. She is said to have had the idea in 1909 while listening to a sermon on Mother's Day, which at the time was just being established as a holiday. A local religious leader supported the idea. The first Father's Day was celebrated June 19th, 1910, which is the month of the birth of Dodd's father. In 1924, President Coolidge gave his support to the observance, and I didn't realize how recent this holiday is. In 1966, LBJ issued a proclamation that recognized the day, but it did not become a national holiday until 1972, when President Nixon signed legislation designating the third Sunday of June as Father's Day. It was originally largely a religious holiday. And one other piece of trivia about it, because I've never seen this, some people observe Father's Day with a custom of wearing a red rose to indicate that one's father is living, or a white rose to indicate that he is deceased. And none of us are wearing roses. So there you go. There is your history lesson for Father's Day. Let's take a look at what's coming up this week. There's the schedule. We'll go into it in a lot of detail in just a second. But I'm going to give you 15 seconds to memorize it, and I'm going to call on somebody to recite it all back. Moving forward, the power of decision. What was that? Oh, is that what I was one?
Let him read.
This Friday from 1 to 4?
Yeah, that's coming up.
All right, bring your marbles.
Okay. All right.
Bring the what?
We'll
There'll be a slide on
We'll get to that in a second. The power of decision is finally, we finally made a decision to start the power of decision. It was a tough thought process, but we've come through it. So it starts this weekend, or this week on Wednesday, for in-person, if I'm reading that correctly. And there is no Zoom, I guess I'm seeing here. Okay. Angelica will be teaching that. There is a sign-up sheet, or facilitating and leading that. There's a sign-up sheet on the table. Did you wish to add more?
I have 2 books from our library. If somebody's not coming because they can't afford the book, I have 2 books.
Okay, so we have 2 books from the library. If you would like to get a book without having to pay for it, Angelica has them over there. So that starts this Wednesday. It is a CSL accredited course, which also means that should you choose to follow the practitioner or ministerial path, this course counts towards that. Let us move forward. Crafternoon. What is going on here? These slides are a different order.
Oh, that's okay. Just call it forward. That's cool.
There we go. Crafternoon. We'll go back and forth. Crafternoon this coming Friday from 1 to 4 in the social hall. People just get together and craft. So bring whatever it is that is crafty for you and have a nice afternoon on Friday. Now, let's see where we go. We go backwards, I think. There we go. We're going to bring up Lori in just a second, but it will be a solstice party. And Lori, if you would take the platform.
Who wants to party? You know, after the Twice Nice, it's like we need to have like fun, you know, and celebrate all that hard work that everybody put in. And so I'm going to have a solstice gathering this Saturday. I know solstice is Friday, but I'm tired after working all day on Friday. So I'm just going to tell you some things here that about it. It's going to be a potluck. And we do have some vegans who are coming, so I don't know if people are interested in doing some vegan food. We'll do hanging out, eating, and then we'll do a fire pit and some ceremonial stuff. Couple things you need to know. My garden is uneven, so if you have problems ambulating on uneven ground, please have some sort of support, whether it's a cane or a person. I'm sure people will be glad to help people. It's a BYOB, so feel free to bring your own adult beverage. I'm encouraging percussion instruments because we often do drumming circles, howling at the moon, you know, all kinds of fun stuff like that. I think I have to draw the line with clothing. Yeah, no, must draw the line with clothing, because he said, "Can we go naked?" We can howl at the moon, we can watch the sunset, but we're not going to be naked. If people have a little bit of kindling or firewood laying around, you know, if you just want to stick some in a bag and bring it, that would help. And I don't have a fire tender yet, but that is an option as well if somebody likes to play in the fire. I know I'm one of those people when I'm camping. I just gotta get in there and dig around. I won't be doing that. Bring a dish to share. Folding chairs are helpful. I do have some chairs that we can move from when we're eating back to the fire pit, but it will help if you bring your own chairs too. I'm going to be making roasted vegetables and salmon. And then on Saturday, if anybody has time on Saturday to help me move some tables from the basement over, that would be helpful. So if you know you have time earlier in the day on Saturday, that would be really helpful. And then, yeah. And then my last thing is, how many people go out into their garden every day and they look at it and they think of all the work they got to do, right? So I have a special request. Do not make suggestions about what I need to do in the garden. I want to have fun, right? Right? But if anybody's like, well, you know, you really ought to try putting that on a trellis or the weeds. No, please do not. And also. No. No. Also, my email address was on that photo for people who are Zooming, who want to come. Tiffany's going to start passing around a sign-up sheet. I need your email address because I don't want to post my address anywhere. So I just want to email everybody on the list to give them my address. Now, parking is not great in my place. It's got to be on the street, so you may want to carpool and then fold your driver's side mirror in because they drive kind of fast on my street.
Where do you live?
In Cutton,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Okay, so hopefully there's no questions. If there are, you can ask me afterwards. Okay, thanks, everybody.
You will. And in honor of Lori, who usually does Green Minute also when we have that, speaking of weeds, I found out an organic weed killer that you make on your own, and I've gone crazy in my yard doing it. It's a gallon of vinegar, about a half cup of salt, which I learned if you're going to put it through a sprayer, first dissolve the salt. Otherwise, you ruin your sprayer. And then about a tablespoon of dishwasher detergent, like Dawn. And then you just spray it on the weeds, and man, within like a day, there we go. It cleans them, but it just takes them right out. And your yard smells like a salad for a couple of days. I was just amazed. So now I buy vinegar by the gallon and go around my yard. My neighbors are getting upset because I'm now attacking their yards too. All right, so let us move forward. What will be the next slide? And it is, we did that. So Redwood Pride Pancake Breakfast. Okay, that one was over here. We're moving it. That will be this Saturday also from June 22nd from 10 to 1 here at the Social Hall. $15 for great pancakes and other food. We help sponsor the Redwood Pride Pancake Breakfast regularly. This year is no different. Was there anybody who was going to comment on this, or was that it?
It's delicious.
It's delicious, okay.
And they have gluten-free pancakes and non-meat sausage.
Including gluten-free pancakes and non-meat sausage. And real pancakes and real sausage. Okay. Oh, they're going to have it as a buffet? Okay. All right, let's move forward. We've got our mural, the sign up, I saw it. Where did I see it? It's in the Social Hall. Okay, it's $22, if I remember correctly, per square. You put your name on a square that you want. It will not actually be, like your name won't be on the mural, but you take as many squares as you would like, and then put your name down on the bottom that you have as to how you're going to pay. This will take place during the final, what do they call it? Mural.
Eureka out.
Yeah, the mural celebration that we've done every year for the last 5 years. This is the last one. And Eureka Center for Spiritual Living is part of that. And that is going to be what our outside wall is going to look like come early August. So please support it in whatever way you can. Speaking of support, our bookstore, 2 books. Andrew Newberg and Mark Waldman, How God Changes Your Brain and Words Can Change Your Brain. 20% off in the other room. Little Pantry needs to be fed.
Needs everything.
It needs everything now.
Even ramen?
Even ramen. Yeah, not so much on the ramen, but we need everything else. So please feed our little pantry because it helps our community. Oh, another announcement before I finish this off. Our volunteers make this place run. The video that you see, if you go on YouTube, which is really wonderfully done by Ari and Marvin, of course, and Randy does our sound over here, And pretty much everybody volunteers for something. Randy needs a substitute to learn how to do the sound because Randy would like to take some time to go someplace. And he can't keep coming back here on Sunday. So would they just see you, Randy? Oh, Anna, did you just say you're going to help? Okay. Yay, Anna. So Anna will help with that. And as always, we have lots of room for volunteers. Just let us know and we will use your services. And I think that's it. Getting into our theme for the month is holy boldness. Susan will lead a moment of peace. Then Angelica will follow with the message, and and we'll take it from there. So where's Susan? There you are. I know how much you like getting up here and speaking.
I know. My life's work,
Oh,
just like you. Actually, I don't like getting up and speaking.
But you do a good job.
Thank you. Anyway, I go through everything I'm going to say beforehand, and I get up here and go, So, my reading today is by Mark Nepo. It's from his book, The Endless Practice. And it's about his visit to a aquarium where he stumbled into a room of jellyfish, exhibit of jellyfish. And I have to say, if you have not stumbled into a room of jellyfish, you need to do it. It is otherworldly. It's really nice. So I invite you to just get comfortable in your chair. After the reading, there'll be a minute of silence, and then Jackson will sing us in. The room was softly lit, and the transparent creatures floating through the tanks seemed iridescent, all aglow. I watched them pulse and move in slow motion, their entire being in unison. I focused on the movement of one delicate master, opening and closing its umbrella-shaped bell, streaming its trailing tentacles. It was the crystal jelly. Its ease of being stunned me. I want my movement through life to be as complete and seamless. I want to be as transparent. I want my opening and closing to move me forward into life into one continuous devotion, the way inhaling and exhaling and perceiving and expressing move us so completely when we slow ourselves enough to receive them. There are two promising traits that jellyfish offer. First, their larvae can stay dormant for decades, drifting until the right condition for birth appears. They are in no hurry. I find this affirming, as we can stay dormant for years, just waiting for the right condition of birth to appear. I often forget this. Birth, especially along the way, begs for our patience. And secondly, some jellyfish, like this crystal jelly, are blessed to emit their own light. This is the byproduct of being true to our nature. While emitting light in a jellyfish is called bioluminescence, emitting light in a person is called the spirit's glow. I stood for a long time before the crystal jelly, and after a time, I began quite naturally to breathe in unison with its slow opening and closing. After a while, I could feel my soul opening and closing. Later, I wondered if I was softly emitting my own light.
I see God in everything.
God is in everything. God is in the jellyfish. God is in each one of us, in every plant, animal. Everywhere we look, we see God. And as we slow ourselves down, as we breathe in who we really are, as we boldly go to let this light of ours shine, I know that we emit our own light. Our laughter, our joy, our compassion and caring is evident in everything we do. And I know as we come from a very center that knows that they are centered in the one life, the one presence, the creative energy that is the source of this universe, I know we all emit our light. And by emitting our own light, we light others, as this community does, for each other, for everyone we touch. And I know that the day's gathering is bright and shining and filled with love, caring, and laughter. And so I simply let it be, knowing that Reverend Angelica's words will touch our heart, will inspire us, and will encourage us to go out and shine our light and be bold, as well as being peace. It's possible, balancing act of being alive. And so I simply let it be. And so it is.
How can one look at a sunset or sunrise at break of dawn and never feel the Creator from which all life is born? I see God every time I turn to help someone else. I'm the one who learns that God's in everything I see. And God's in you. God's in me.
And now I'd like to welcome Reverend Angelica.
Good morning, everyone. This light seems brighter than usual today. But that's good. Maybe I need brightness this morning. Oh, that helped. Yeah, that helped a lot. All right, cool. You know, our theme this month has been Holy Boldness. And it's been an interesting theme. You know, I got to tell you that right off the bat, there's a global vision team that creates the themes for the year, and our theme for the year is a grand rising. It creates them for the months, and it creates notes for the Sunday morning talks. Well, half the time I'm looking at them going, what? You know, and then something else comes to me to share that goes in alignment with the title. I think about these things, I start thinking about them on Sunday. Like this afternoon, I'll look up and see what am I supposed to be talking about next week. And then I let things happen all week long that pushed me into the talk that I'm going to be giving on Sunday. So this week is about living limitation free. And what I realized was that living limitation free is living without any restraints on us. And there are so many restraints put on us by society. And we forget, too, that we have not only the outer limitations, but the inner limitations as well, probably things that we learned as a kid, etc. And so, in other words, our limitations can be conscious, or they could be subconscious or unconscious. But what I know is that as we do our spiritual work, we begin to remember that there's no limitations at all in the divine. I think that our job, basically, living here in this dimension, is to remember who we are. We're not just mere, what did Gene Houston call us one time? Oh, no, it wasn't Gene Houston, it was Q on Star Trek. He said, we are ugly bags of mostly water. What? We're not just that. We're not just these flesh bodies. In fact, it comes to me right now to remember there's a Persian legend that says that the people in the next dimension, the angels you might call them, were leaning over the balcony one day to look at what was down on this new planet called Earth. And they saw all this green and the water and the plants, the animals. And they really got sort of envious of the animals. And they decided that, they'd like to be able to frolic and play like that too. And a couple of them fell off the balcony. And that's how we got here. I love looking at creation stories. And I might have said this right when I came back from Alaska, but in British Columbia, there's this huge statue of a clamshell that's just barely open, and there's a crow sitting on top of it, or a raven, and out of it is coming people. And that's how they got to the planet. Creation stories are pretty amazing. We've got lots of different ideas all throughout it. But one of the things we don't have is that we're unlimited. Every creation story, every story that we get personally is that we're limited in some way. For instance, I've told this story before, but it's a perfect example of being a little kid, and in the evenings, Christmas Eve, we used to sing songs, and my dad would read a story. And I can remember so vividly this one Christmas Eve, I'm singing happily along, with everybody doing the Christmas songs, and my mother goes, pokes me with her sharp elbow and says, "Stop it, you can't sing." And that shut me down until I was in, I think, high school, where you had to take an elective. And my elective, I'm not a sports person, I'm not a real active person, etc. If they had had a reading club, I definitely would have gone to that, but they didn't. So the one I picked was choir. And as, I'm sitting on these bleachers as we're doing our auditions for choir, thinking, oh God, don't call on me, I can't sing. And he finally does call on me, and you have to go down, and he does the scales, and you got to sing according to the scales and some other things. And he's finished, and he goes, you have one of the most natural, wide-range voices I've ever heard. I was like, oh my God, all this time I haven't let myself sing, even though I wanted to? So there was an outer limit that somebody put on me, and that I swallowed wholeheartedly, which then prevented me from doing what I wanted to do during my life. I don't sing that much now either, though. I've been part of the choir a few times. However, so one of the things that we do in our spiritual work is we start to remember that who we are is whole, healthy, perfect, complete in oneness. our story here is that we're spirit, and that we came to earth here to experience what it felt like to live in a body. Just for a moment, think about what it would be like if you didn't have a body. Think of all those meals you'd miss. Think of sex. You know, there's so many things you would not get to experience because you had no body. You were just a light being. Of course, I'm sure there would be great things to experience as a light being. But I decided to look at what people without limits do. So here's a few of them. People without limits rewrite the script. So when I was in choir in school and heard that, I had this whole script to rewrite. The one that said I couldn't sing to I can sing and I'm good at it. And so what I know is that as we change our scripts, we begin to realize that the scripts we've had are really meaningless. We give meaning to the scripts we have, and for some reason we seem to give more meaning to negative scripts than to positive ones. But people who are living without limitation are letting go of the scripts they have about the negative ones and opening up to learning more and expressing more of the positive ones. So we change the rules for ourselves. We create new rules. So my second one is people without limits realize where the limits came from in the first place. Well, I've already talked about this. Most of us got our limits from when we were little. Maybe, my father, for instance, he wanted, he was a lawyer, a tax attorney, did quite well, and he wanted one of his sons to go into the law business. Well, my older brother was more of a scientist, so he went into that business. My younger brother just wanted to surf. Law, what's that? He wanted to surf. Well, unfortunately, my younger brother didn't go into law, but he went into banking, which was another thing that took him away from surfing. But now his son is really adamant about being a surfer, and my brother is encouraging him instead of telling him, oh, no, you can't make any money surfing. His son will figure that out on his own if indeed that's true for him. He might end up going to meets and winning all kinds of money because of it. But so we realize where the limitations came from in the first place. So 3, people without limits don't let anyone tell them who they are. When we feel like we're limited, it's because somebody said something to us at some time in our experience. It could even have been yesterday, that tells us that we're not enough. Maybe when you were a child, your parent told you that you weren't athletic, and so you never went out to play ball like you'd like to, or that you weren't a dancer, and so you never took any dance classes or did any dancing things. But we let people tell us who we're supposed to be. Especially if you're a woman. I was watching the last part of season 3 of Bridgerton last night, and if you haven't seen it, I won't really... I watched it too. That got applause, wow. But the young woman in that series wants to write. And when everybody finds out that she's been doing it secretly for a couple years, and when everybody finds out that she wants to write and that she's been doing this, they immediately jump on her about how this just isn't done. It's not polite, etc. It's just gossip. And then the queen comes in and says something that makes everything all right. But she, towards the end of this show, she doesn't let anybody tell her who she's supposed to be. And so when we let people tell us what we're supposed to be, it's kind of an insidious thing. You know, sometimes we don't really realize that we're letting people tell us what we're supposed to be. A thought that just flew through my mind is, I never wore shoes when I spoke on Sunday in Hawaii. I do now, mainly because it's cold. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the shoes on. But at one point, Dr. Kennedy Schultz, who was the president of Religious Science International, that's when we were 2 divisions, talked about me from the platform at a Sillamar about how this Earth Mama didn't wear shoes while she was speaking on Sunday. And you know what happened for me? I didn't get embarrassed. I mean, I did get a little bit embarrassed about it, but it made me more adamant about not wearing shoes. You know, it's like, well, you don't live in Hawaii. You don't know what it's like. And besides, I felt more connected with shoes. I think I've done that a few times here. So I established my own set of rules. I took away the limitations that were trying to be put on me. I didn't let anybody tell me who I was. The 4th one is people without limits don't give up. So, you know, as we're going through our life, we're going to have setbacks, aren't we? Whether it's in health or something, you know, we forget something that we shouldn't have forgotten or whatever, but we're going to have setbacks. And the truth is, it's not about the setbacks, but it's about what we do with the setbacks. Everything starts in mind. Everything comes from our consciousness, right? So if we then accept, okay, I made a mistake, I had a setback, and we mourn it, allow ourselves to mourn it. I think sometimes we try to just jump right into the thing we think we're supposed to be doing without letting ourselves feel the feelings about it. And this is something I thought about the other day when I was driving. I talk a lot about it's done unto us as we believe. And I want you to know what belief is to me. It's thoughts and feelings. It's not just thoughts. It's not just mind stuff. The feelings, anything that we manifest in our lives, it's because not only are we thinking about wanting that thing, desiring that thing, but we feel that we desire that thing as well. Or if you're doing a spiritual mind treatment or having a practitioner work for you, what they're doing is seeing you as if you already have it, both with the thoughts and the feelings. So we want to remember that it's not all mind stuff. It's about feelings as well, which works really good for my last one. People without limits know how to face their fears. There isn't anybody in this room that doesn't have some fear about one thing or another. I mean, it could be, can I pay this bill? It can be, oh, what if I wear this particular outfit? What are people going to think about me? Or it could be about anything. You know, maybe since it's Father's Day, maybe it could be about something about not knowing whether you are a good enough father or not. You know, we all have fears. Yet if we let fear stop us, that's where the problem comes in. So if we allow ourselves to understand where our fears come from, and then do the work to overcome those fears, then we're free to move forward and accomplish what we want to accomplish. We're free to live limitation-free. What if you didn't have any limits? Just think about that for a moment. Think about the rules you've made for yourself, or the rules that you've allowed other people to make for you, society, etc. There's a whole faction right now that's trying to force their rules on us, right? About who we can love, what we can do with our bodies, etc. And if we buy into that, then we're living in limitation. So our choice has to be to live limitation-free, whatever that means for us. It could mean something totally different for you than it does for me. In fact, living limitation-free doesn't mean that you won't have limits in your life. We're always going to have limits. We're always going to be setting them and then pushing the boundaries, or setting them and living up to them. In order to be bold, to live bold, though, it's up to us to pay attention to how we're living our lives, to what we're feeling, what we're fearing, what we're thinking, and change what it is that needs to be changed. Dr. Holmes says, the only reason a person is limited is that they have not allowed the divine within them to more completely express. So I want to go back to what I said in the beginning. Our job here is to remember who we are. Our job here is to remember that who we are is a being of light, a sacred expression of the one powerful presence. That's who we are. This requires allowing ourselves to be empowered. It requires conviction, commitment. It requires the ability to govern ourselves from an inner place of strength, trust, and faith. To know that these things that we're getting from our intuition, and remember I've taught you before that I believe our intuition is the translation device for the divine. I mean, think about this. There's this allness, oneness. And if it chooses to speak to us, it has to speak to us. If we didn't have our intuition, I believe we wouldn't hear it. It would be too much. But through our intuition, we move forward in our lives listening to the voice of the divine within us. So if we look at our teaching, it's really about examining our hidden beliefs. It's really about working on ourselves all the time. And I've been doing this for 38 years. And it's amazing the things that I'm still discovering about myself, because it's almost like you're walking your spiritual path and there's some dust over there, and for some reason you attract that dust and it gloms onto you. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, there's some dust I need to let go of. And so you do your work and you let go of it and you continue on the path, and more dust comes, right? We tend to, maybe this is the way it's going to be for the rest of our lives, is a constant glomming onto things and then realizing, no, that's not truth with a capital T. That's not the reality of life. And that's with a capital R. We look at life. I know right now, for instance, there's a lot of people that are really fearful about the direction our country is going in. And I feel that. I've felt it. And yet I know that if we choose to stop being afraid and do the things that we know what to do, and let ourselves be open to doing whatever it is to move us forward, then what we're afraid of will not happen. I know too many people are going, but. And yet, if you really think about it, the news, most of us are getting our information from the news, and the news never tells you the whole truth. The news tells you what titillates, what sells, so that you'll continue to watch that channel. So you got to do your own research. For instance, I've read Project 2025. It's 1,000 pages of crap. I'm sorry if anybody is for that. But the restrictions that are in that Project 2025 are horrible. So you have to do your own work. I don't know why I went there, sorry. This teaching is about examining our hidden beliefs and perceptions. Our spiritual practices free us to move forward through answering our own call and intuitive guidance. This pathway leads us to living limitation-free as we walk with holy boldness. So I'm going to ask you, this week, take time to do some self-assessment. See where you have a belief that you're still hanging on to that makes you feel restricted. If so, what's calling you to make the shift? Ask yourself, what's calling me to make this shift? And if you can't figure it out, we've got practitioners to help you. They like helping us move forward into our higher purpose. And that's a good thing. So let's see what our affirmation is today. Oops, where's the affirmation? There we go. Let's say this together. I am free to be who I truly am, a creative and unlimited being, connected to all life and ever expanding into my greatness. And we thank Michelle for doing those affirmations. And let's treat. How grateful I am to be in a teaching that shows me continually how to be free, free from all limitations. I know that in truth, since all there is this divine energy that is manifesting itself as us, as everything that we could possibly imagine, as everything we can see and experience with our senses, there is no limitation in the divine. Just think about those weeds that Scott was talking about. There's no limitation. They just keep growing. So this is what I know for us, that we have the strength of conviction of a weed. We allow ourselves to continually grow, to continually open up and discover more of the glories and the beauty of the divine. We see the divine in everything around us. We see the divine in our own selves when we look in the mirror. And we allow ourselves to let go of those things that have kept us limited. I know the truth. The truth is that all there is the one life. There's only one life. That life is divine life. That life is the life that life is perfect, and that life is the life we're living right now. And so I celebrate this life with every fiber of my being. And I allow myself to do the work necessary to experience living boldly, living limitation-free. And this is a good thing. And I declare that this work is easy. This work comes, the idea of the work comes easily, the way to move through the work comes easily, and we walk this divine path with a sense of joy and a sense of gratitude. How grateful we are to be alive, to be able to see and touch and hear and taste and smell and do all these wonderful things with this body. How grateful we are for relationships, for finances, for creativity, for health, for everything. It's all God, absolutely all divine. And so we give thanks for all of this, for ourselves, for each other, for doing this work to know this teaching even better, to know ourselves even better. We're so grateful. And so it is. And Jackson is giving us the gift of music this morning. So thank you, Jackson.
I'm going to tell you a little story before I sing.
Oh, good.
I have a cousin named Fred Westbrook. He had a buddy in high school. Fred is about 5 or 6 years older than I am. Fred had a buddy in high school named Ray Ragsdale. Now, Ray Ragsdale was a budding musician, played guitar. He would bring his guitar and little bitty tiny amplifier over to Fred's house, and they would go down into the basement, and Ray would play his guitar. My aunt would holler down the stairs, "Turn it down, it's too loud." Well, Ray Ragsdale kept at it, and he eventually changed his professional name to Ray Stevens. And Ray Stevens wrote this song that I'm going to sing today. That's the tie-in. However, the version that I'm going to do is more of the Michael Byers version cover of it than Ray Stevens' version. So this is my song for Father's Day. My dad never climbed Mount Everest. He never wrote a novel, never won a Pulitzer Prize. My dad never planned a freeway. He never made a million like some other guys. He hasn't any trophies. He's never made who's who. But if you need his help, there's not a thing he wouldn't do. He doesn't play the piano or the violin, you know. But he can play a radio as well as any pro. Oh, my dad could beat up your dad, but he wouldn't. My dad could beat up your dad, but he wouldn't even try. He's got the greatest laugh, and he's not afraid to cry. I can't imagine that he ever told a lie. And he forgives so fast when you've done something you shouldn't. My dad could beat up your dad, but he wouldn't. My dad never ran for office, and he never found a cure for some rare disease. My dad never swam the channel, and he never did learn how to sing in Chinese. He never once played Hamlet or had a friar's roast. And when he cooks breakfast, well, he always burns the toast. He's never been to Europe or seen the pyramids. His favorite pastime is just bragging about his kids. My dad could beat up your dad, but he wouldn't. Oh, my dad could beat up your dad, but he wouldn't even try. His life may be simple, but it's far from humdrum. For an ordinary man, he is extraordinary as they come. I once tried to describe him, but I couldn't. My dad could beat up your dad, but he wouldn't. My dad could beat up your dad, but he wouldn't. Oh, my dad could beat up your dad, but he wouldn't even try. I remember long ago, and it makes me awfully glad. when I looked down from heaven and said, I want that guy to be my Thank you. Thank you so much.
Jackson, you always sing with such enthusiasm, but this song I think you always take to a higher level. Yeah, thank you for that. And funny you mention Ray Stevens, because I've had the song Mr. Businessman stuck in my head for the last week. How random is that? Wow. All right, let's move forward with the next part of our service, the sharing of our gifts. Gifts. So please put in the plate whatever you can. As always, put in love. And Jackson, and first we'll start out by saying together, I gratefully give from the fullness of my abundance, knowing my gift blesses this center, all in it and beyond, and so it is. They're kind of off in their own world. Taking the long way home, huh? All righty. As we accept these gifts, I know and I am grateful for the fact that there is no separation between us and the rest of the world. And I know that this currency, these gifts, this donation, these contributions are merely one more form of that energy. I also know that whatever we put into the law of mind is amplified and sent out countless times throughout the world and throughout the universe. And therefore, that is what is happening to these gifts. As these gifts go forward and bring good to the rest of our community, our city, our state, and our world, I release these words into the law of mind, knowing they have already been happening. And with gratitude, I say, and so it is. Thank you. Okay, as we get to the final part of our service here, a couple of announcements and what have you. If you need help from, as Angelica commented, if you would like to talk with a practitioner, we are available for you. There's also a little prayer box. You can see it sitting in front of Michelle. If you want to just put a note in there, we take those and we circulate them among the practitioners. The practitioners who are here today are Michelle, Edward, Susan, myself. Yeah, I think that would be it. Okay, so please feel free to reach out if you need us. Wanted to just do a quick announcement and then get into the demonstrations because I have a big one. There is a one-act play festival that is starting a week from today at the Exit Theater in Arcata. So the next 2 Sundays will be kind of a weird setup of some one-act plays and I think a belly dancer and all sorts of other acts that will be on the Sundays. And then the 2 weeks, the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the first week is 6 one-act plays. The next week is 6 other one-act plays. The next 2 Sundays, I will be in one of the plays. It's called Tapestry. And then the following week, I will be directing a play called 2 Yards of Satan about a woman who goes to a seamstress, or to, like Joanne Fabrics, orders 2 yards of satin, but misspells it. And a 6-foot-tall Satan shows up at her door. So anyway, there are a lot of them are local plays. So if you are looking for something fun to do, it's at the Exit Theater in Arcata. We're going to get into demonstrations here. A demonstration is when you put something into the law of mind, you imagine it, you feel it, it it comes to be real. And it was 30 years ago today that I was here, but we were located over on Myrtle. And I was in group therapy at the time, going through a divorce. And I had said to my therapist, who was also a believer in religious science in the group, I said, I think I'm ready to get involved in a relationship. And she said, be careful, because the second you say that, it's going to happen. And I said, okay, well, I'm ready. At the same time, Mary Ann was talking to our minister at that point, Patrick Pollard, and said, I think I'm ready to get into a relationship. And he said, watch out, because I have a 100% track record. That weekend we met. It has been 30 years. I wish she could be here today. She's not feeling quite well enough to be here. But thank you. So it happens. It happens. And one of the interesting things was when we had been dating about 6 months, she had made a list that she had given to Patrick of what she wanted in a mate, a partner. And 22 things on the list, 20 of them were me. The other two, sorry, whoever that fellow was, he's gone. But it was really amazing to see. So this philosophy really does work if you believe, and that's really what it takes. Another quick demonstration. Edward, you want to come up forward? Oh, man. Oh, don't shine a light on those.
Hey, I'm the color of money. Come on now. Abundance.
Oh, my Lord.
Speaking of which, okay, my demonstration and my wife's demonstration, Amy, is that we originally told you guys that we had found a house and we were going to buy a house. Well, it turned out that that particular house kind of fell through because it needed a lot of work. We were going to have to replace a roof in about 2 years, and a bunch of things going on with it. There was no sewer lateral, there's no drain, and it was on a hillside, and water under the house and what have you. But we were kind of locked into a contract, and we said, okay, this is becoming less and less attractive to us. And we started asking the seller for this, that, and the other. He refused everything because it turns out he's a house flipper. And so, we were kind of praying that the thing would fall through, basically. So it came to the time for our closing. Come to find out he didn't have clear title to the place. So this kind of like escalated on to the end of our rate lock. And we gave him to that time to get straight. Come to find out now he had a lien on the property. So to make a long story short, the contract lapsed. And he came about 3 days later and said, I'm ready to close. And we said, we don't want it, because at that point we were looking for something else. And he, of course, wanted to keep our earnest money. And to this date, he's trying to keep half of it. But anyway, so what happened is we found another house right over on I Street. We walked in, it felt like home. It was everything that we were looking for. 2-year-old roof and almost no work to be done. Beautiful area, beautiful neighborhood. And the sellers were willing to work with us. We ended up saving $25,000 on the purchase price. So we got equity because it appraised at the same value of the other house, which was $495, I think it was, and we bought it for $470. And then they gave us a credit for the few little small minor repairs that had to be done. And we were just grateful because we had been treating that the other house would fall through, and it did. So Spirit was looking out for us. We get the keys Monday.
Getting keys Monday, all right, yeah.
And I'm the color of money. Always.
Oh, please, come forward.
So yesterday and this past weekend, I got to go to Vegas to celebrate my brother's retirement from the military. He served for 28 years in the Air Force, yeah. He said it's a strange thing at 18 to make a decision about what you want to be, and for most of us that means picking something, right? But knowing that we can make other choices, and instead he went into the Air Force Academy at 18, and so that's what he's been doing. He's 47 now, 48. And so anyway, but you remember Paul Harvey, right? So here's the rest of the story. In 2006, my brother was an F-16 pilot. And for a variety of reasons, his plane crashed into the Atlantic Ocean off of the coast of Charleston, South Carolina. And when you crash that kind of plane, somehow there is a raft that deploys. And somehow we made it into that raft. Well, there were a number of things that were not great. One of them being the week before they had switched from practicing with their bright yellow or bright orange rafts to their military combat rafts, which are dark gray, right? The only planes that were in that area at the time were other F-16s that were practicing with him, and those fly too fast to really be good at search and rescue. But there happened to be a Navy ship in the area at the time that was doing maneuvers, and so the Air Force reached out to the Navy and said, "Can you help us?" And so they had a Navy ship that was going slowly along the coast, and literally everybody who was on the ship, based on where they thought his plane had gone down, was looking on one side of the ship. And there was one person who was standing in the other direction and goes, "There he is." And so anyway, my family, my parents and my sister were living here. I was in Chicago. We all just got on planes, went through 4 different airports, and got there the next day. And I walked into the hospital room not really knowing what I was going to find. And I said, "Man, you will just do anything for attention." And he says, "Well, it worked." And so he went on to have a long career. Obviously, he got involved in overseeing people who flew drones. And one of the things he said during his retirement ceremony was, he started out in a wheelchair afterwards. He needed a lot of surgeries to be a person again, a fully, what he was before person. And so his act of penance while they were letting him work in the front office doing admin work, because that was really all he could do, was there was a very fancy glass conference table, and he would clean that table every day and shine it up because they were giving him the opportunity to stay. And he was so grateful. And they had invested so much in helping him get well. And so he went on to have 2 sons who are now 17 and 16 and are thriving. One is the valedictorian out of his class of 618, he told me. And then the other one wants to be a doctor, right? Okay. So, just all the things that have come from, my brother said during his graduation, or his retirement ceremony rather, that he had the choice to decide if he was done or if he was going to continue. While he was in that raft, he actually had that thought. And I'm so glad that he did. And a few years ago, he went to his high school reunion. There were only 35 people who came out of the 400 who went to his school, and reunited with a gal that he had known from high school, and now they're married. So there's that benefit too. And so when he decided to retire, because he's kind of young for doing this, he said the reason that he did was his boys had lived in 8 places over the course of his career. And one of them had said, "Dad, I've just decided it's not worth making friends anymore. We're just going to move again." And my brother started to cry, and he said he just knew at that point that family was more important than striving or his ambition or anything like that. And so anyway, it was just really special to be there. At this graduation ceremony that he did, there was a really formal one, and then he had one of his sons be the narrator and did a really personal one for 10 of us. So it was really incredible to be there. So we just never know where things are going to lead.
Speaking of living a life without limits. All right, what we need Yeah.
Can I do one more? Can I do one? I'll make it short.
Okay, please.
I'll make it very short. Since I've been coming here to this church, I felt like I've got a big church family and I'm happy about it. And I feel welcome here. And I always want to go here until God takes me home. So thank you for being my church family, and I love y'all very much. God bless you.
Okay, well, thank you, Donna. We need somebody to read our community statement of inclusion, and then this new lens that you got is freaking me out. It is so focused, it's like I gotta shave even better now. That lens is like a telescope, good Lord. Yeah, wow. All right, we need somebody who will read our community statement of inclusion. If you haven't done it before, you get first dibs. If you have done it before, you can still do it. Do we have somebody? All right, Bree. And then we'll turn it over to Donna after that. There you go.
Here? Okay, good. We, the Eureka Center for Spiritual Living, are a community that celebrates diversity, fosters inclusion, champions inner work, and creates space for brave and vulnerable conversations. We are a community that honors the unique emmanuation of God, and each person embodies and advocates with people for human rights and dignity for all. We are a community that blesses each other, sees sacredness in all life, remains learners and listeners so we may grow together, and understands that oneness is not sameness. We know and love community is revealed more fully when we love each other well. It seems longer up there. This is short on here.
She's a fast reader. Thank you, Bree. Remember, dandelions are your friend. When they become not your friend is when they go a little puffbally. That's when you pick them. Just saying. But the birds eat the birds, then they poop the seeds all around. So if you, I mean, whatever. Please stand and join me in this. The dandelions are your friend. Thank you. You can eat them. You can make wine. You can make tea.
Yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins with me. Yes, there is peace on earth, the peace that was meant to